All right, so we're gonna have an open conversation with the chat, and we're gonna look at this article because we need to discuss manipulation. This is, and granted, talking about manipulation as far as like modern, casual kind of living in the world versus a cult is different, but it's not as different as you would think. Not really. So, from the Daily Beast, how do normal, successful, and smart people end up joining a cult? It's easy to dismiss cult members as gullible or simply stupid. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. There is so much fucking research out there about this. It's wild. I have Wait, let's see if I can make this bigger. Hang on. Let's see if we can do it like this. Yeah, 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 yeah. This one, yeah. Okay. Cool. I have bad news for you. If you are a happy, well adjusted person with a loving family and a degree, then congratulations. You are exactly the kind of person that can be recruited into a cult. The term cult evokes images of people standing in rings of candles or whole families dead in their beds wearing matching tracksuits. But Dr. Janja Lalish, a sociologist and renowned cult expert, says a cult is more likely to look like an overly enthusiastic self help group that takes over your schedule or a multi level marketing company that makes you drive all your friends away. And this is actually very, very common, extremely common. And this like kind of the reason why I think this is so important is because of so much misinformation that people are buying into these days. And you have to understand that the kind of like trap you can find yourself falling into, people can just say, "Oh, you're an idiot," but you might not be an idiot for falling for things like anti-vaccine misinformation. It can just simply be that you got caught into something that very specifically has a means of hook that is appealing to you and you won't even notice. Have you ever been talked into getting the extra warranty at the car dealership? Have you ever taken a friend's free kickboxing class and signed up for an 18-month membership during your post-workout high? Have you ever found yourself frantically cleaning chocolate cake off a hotel wall smashed there by your blackout drunk sorority sister and asked yourself, how did I get here? No one joins a cult on purpose, but everyone is vulnerable to being manipulated into joining. Cults know exactly what they're doing, according to psychologist Steve Eichel. In fact, they specifically look for people who are idealistic and optimistic. In a 2017 study of former cult members found that 61% had more than 12 years of education. 61%. Holy shit. Cults need members who are passionate about self-improvement, about the betterment of mankind, and about living a more fulfilling life. Isn't that what we all strive for? Now, I will say, one of the ways in which this is like very applicable to the anti-vaccine movement is very simple. It also is the same way that people get attracted to very specific types of fringe political beliefs, is that whereas you can have people who are attracted to this because they're idealistic and optimistic, you can also attract people who have a desperate need to feel persecuted, especially when they are not persecuted. That's how you get people who are into my freedom about the mandates. It's how you get people into feeling that they're a rebel because they follow a president of a first world country. It's how people can really get easily hooked into this kind of thing. It's bizarre. Survivors describe being overwhelmingly welcomed, feeling like they found instant friendship and acceptance. Psychologists call that love bombing. Cults make you feel special, and we all suspect deep inside that we are more special than our peers. That also can have a very, very specific hook in which, if you have uncovered the truth, you then feel like you have this untapped hidden knowledge that they don't want you to know about. It's fucking wild. Oh my god, the chat is going bananas. Are you guys having an argument while we're recording a segment? Oh boy. Yeah. Conservatism is the new punk rock kind of shit. Exactly. Dude, fucking exactly. Exactly. And I think that was Paul Joseph Watson who said that. Conservatism is the new punk rock. Ugh, that fucking guy. Anyway, Cults don't start at kicking a sex worker to death in a forest. They start like a normal group, and only when they've made you fully invested do things begin to escalate. Everyone has some experience with toxic work environments, emotionally abusive relationships, or pushy fraternal organizations. This is how it begins with familiarity. Now, this is largely like one of the more important things that I really wanted to bring up when talking about this. And this is the part that bugs me the most. The way in which you get talked into anti-vaccine sentiment is never by people just saying, hey, the vaccines don't work. That's not what they do. It isn't. They don't do that. They say, well, I'm just asking questions. Why, like, for instance, this is an old one for anti-vax. Why can't you sue a vaccine manufacturer? Why does that drug in specific have a different way in which people have to make a claim? And for anybody who's never thought about it before, doesn't understand anything about it, they'd be like, well, that's a good point. Huh. Then other people can say, like, well, with this COVID vax, it doesn't actually prevent you from getting COVID. You can still get COVID, as if that isn't something that people already know or has been admitted, that it's actually vastly more complicated than that, that it's more about mitigating the systems and training up your immune system so you won't, die. Then they start saying things, and this is the one I've been hearing the most lately. Well, this isn't even really a vaccine. And all of these things are very, very intentional and slowly introduced stepladders that people find themselves climbing. And that's how it happens. That's how this whole thing comes about. So when you're talking to somebody that is getting further and further into the anti-vaccine sentiment, you have to first try and understand like where their position is coming from. Is this coming just straight out of like them having a distrust in biomedical science and whatnot? Or is this coming from something that's more politically aligned, more politically motivated? And the thing is, and this is what's unfortunate, because a lot of people start out with, I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm anti-mandate. Yeah, it could be true. That could be true. But I would warn you to not budge from that further into vaccine skepticism, because that's what they want. That is a hook. Well, see, we're not against the vaccine. We're against the mandate. Anybody who tells you that and is an organizer or a YouTuber is lying. They're fucking lying. And they're trying to push you into anti-vaccine sentiment. That is their intended purpose. That is what they're trying to do. Because just like this, it is a disinformation fucking tactic. So if that's your position, you have to stay hard to it. Otherwise, they'll suck you in. And that is political. So, like, this is why it's so fucking crazy. We had the whole QAnon thing for the longest time. We had all these articles coming out about people who got so involved and like hyper invested into QAnon. And then they like lost contact with their family members. They were ostracized. They just couldn't even relate to some people anymore. Same thing is happening with the anti-vax movement. And a fuck ton of people, and I mean a fuck ton of people, who are hardcore into the QAnon and Patriot My Freedom movement are now neck and neck, side by side with anti-vaxxers. You got people who will say like, well, Dr. Malone is not an anti-vaxxer. He invented mRNA technology. He did not. But he just is asking questions, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah? Then why does he then go and stand side by side with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the guy who convinced a whole generation of Samoan women to not get their children vaccinated against measles, and then over 80 children of a generation fucking died from measles? One of the biggest anti-vax superstars in the fucking world. And Malone is side by side with that fucking guy. It's bullshit. It's cult shit. It's political, overt manipulation. So when it comes down to it and somebody wants to split hairs of like, well, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Well, let's ask the question. Are you parroting any anti-vax talking points? Yes, you're a fucking anti-vaxxer. And if you don't like that, maybe re-examine your choices and maybe make sure that you steel yourself against the fact that somebody really does want to suck you into that line of belief. You have to protect yourself. And it doesn't matter whether you're a smart motherfucker, you went to college, you're rich, or you're poor and uneducated. It doesn't matter. Because, unfortunately, being intelligent is not an insulator to being manipulated.